Scene 3 is bloopers, the learning process, retakes, bounce back ability. We have to be prepared to replace the actors in the movies. Some don't want to work. Some aren't interested in memorizing the scripts, attending workshops or meetings. And it's so important to attend workshops and meetings in our group. Some find other movies to perform in. Other people go to other businesses. Some are only interested in being a part-time of a social club. And some want major roles like team leader, director, managing director, or MVP. And as in making any movie, you will have to have some retakes. You won't always get it right the first time. And that's why we must always have a dream or goal for our future. This will keep us bouncing back to our goal over and over again. Without vision, we will give up. So I want to ask you, how many watched the Masters this past weekend? Rory McIlroy was a prime example of bounce back ability, BBA. For 11 years, he had BBA to get to his green jacket and completed a career Grand Slam, having won all of the majors. It was really interesting to watch, even if you aren't a golfer or a sports person. And I want to say, and Justin Rose, who is number 2, showed us what grace looks like in defeat. He was truly amazing. There are 2 keys to success. Begin by making a decision and don't quit. Justin said it was a true honor to be playing with him, and he knows what he's going to do next. And he talked about BBA. So it's not just in Super Patch. So I've asked Judy Twells, who will explain the learning process, the retakes, and the BBA, bounce back ability. So thank you, Judy, for your time and putting this together.
You're welcome, Janie. We've been doing this movie theme for about 5 weeks now. And one of the things that I thought of today is that there's always slogans within the movies and showbiz, basically. Like if someone's going on stage, we say break a leg. Not literally, of course, we don't want that to happen. But the other big one is leave them wanting more. That's a huge one in showbiz. And it's exactly the same in our business. So I want to talk on that level about separating the invitation from the actual presentation, because that's leave them wanting more. You introduce a little bit, and then you set up an invitation. By invitation, you set up an appointment to fill them in with more. Now, I have to apologize to Mira today. We caught up after many, many years. We were neighbors in Oakville, and I vomited all over her. Because of something she said to me, I knew that she would probably really benefit from our super patches. So I told her a lot. So I kind of what I would call spewing or vomiting all over her. I didn't leave her necessarily wanting more. So I broke my own cardinal rule today. So Mira, you're still on there, and I apologize to you. However, Mira is very interested in trying some patches, and we'll talk tomorrow on that. So in order to do that invitation, you need to keep it short. It's all about what we call an elevator pitch. You know, if you were in an elevator, you want to talk to somebody, you haven't got much time from floor 1 up to wherever you're going to say anything about the business or about the patches that will entice people to want to learn more. So you would then just give them a little bit and hopefully just say, when is it best that I call you? Because I'd be doing you an injustice if I told you everything right now, pretty much what I did to Mira today. So there's a blooper that you can learn from. I made a mistake today, but it was just it flowed. It was just part of what it is. But it kind of was a blooper in business law. So, if your elevator pitch isn't working for you, though, if you find that you're talking to people and really people are not responding, to even set up an appointment, then you have to edit. And this is where the editing part that movies are all edited. It was interesting, the Academy Awards, when they were on in March, I listened, and the gentleman that won the best editor, he said he allows 3 people into his editing room. One was his wife, one was his mother, and one was his dog. So technically, it was people he could trust. That was it. So really, if you're going to allow people to edit your business life, you need to be able to trust them. We can get all kinds of information from other people who are not even in the business, but make sure they're people who know what they're talking about. Somebody mentioned today, and I can't even think who I was talking to, and they said that they had talked to their children about Super Patch when they first joined the company. And the children basically thought it was stupid and thought that they were crazy. And so this person is a little downhearted about it. Well, that's not the kind of editing you want. You want to talk and edit with people that you trust and that have an opinion that is valid. People who have maybe even tried the patches, people who have tried business. So don't go out there just telling everybody that you have joined Super Patch, because be discriminate. Make sure that the people you're telling are actually your support system, and that would be called editing. So Jay has asked us to learn some scripts, which is all part of the movie theme again. And actually, it's the 8 marketing advantages. And those 8 marketing advantages really are part of the script that you need to learn. We are a globally protected intellectual property and technology. So we're protected on all levels. It's solutions and products for a maximum market opportunity, products that work fast. And that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to see a difference straight away. Our regulatory and clinical compliance, that's not easy to say, is all in order. There's no lifestyle change required to wear patches or to do a business. And it's a perfect price for consumers. I hope Mira won't mind me saying this, but she asked me today what the pricing is. I told her, she said, oh, that's reasonable. And I think you'll probably all agree that it is reasonable. And then we have the co-op marketing program, which is the CapEx. So all of those 8 components, Jay wants us to learn that as part of our presentation skills. Does anyone watch Amazing Race? I'm addicted to it. I absolutely love it. This past week, they had to ride a personal hydrofoil in Dubai. And several of the contests had to do this over and over and over. And like some of the retakes were 11 and 17 different times that they had tried to stay on this thing that was hovering above the water. But you know what? They all did. They all had bounce back ability, every single one of them. They all finished. Sometimes in the Amazing Race, they can take a penalty. So they can skip the actual task and go on, but they have to take maybe a 10-minute penalty or something. But none of them did. They all bounced back every time and actually mastered this contraption that they were hovering on above the water. It was really quite a great lesson, I thought, in life and business to watch that. We have to have bounce back ability sometimes when people quit in our business. Like Janie said, they go on to maybe make a different movie. They go on to a different walk of life. It doesn't really matter, but people do quit. Even sponsors quit. I joined Mary Kay back in 1984. My sponsor quit the week after I joined. So that was it. And then my director, when I became a director, she quit because I was the only person recruiting in the whole team. So she was left without a business. They had what they call a breakaway program. We don't have that, thank goodness. Okay, so you have to have bounce back ability no matter what happens in your business. So let's talk quickly, I only got a couple of minutes, about bloopers. One blooper that we can make is by using the word Super Patch in any of our posts on Instagram and Facebook. That would be a blooper. And bloopers are interesting. They're fun usually. They've made a whole industry about showing bloopers on TV. So we can't use that word Super Patch. We cannot also talk about diseases or diagnoses. We can only talk about symptoms. And sometimes a symptom can be a little bit ambiguous as to whether it's a disease or a symptom, like sciatica. I wouldn't even mention sciatica. I would mention that I've got pain. That you're really better off just to talk about pain. If somebody says to you that they've got sciatica, don't address it as such. Address it as, oh, I see you've got terrible pain, because it can be very, very painful. The other blooper we can make is to use materials in our postings on Facebook or Instagram that are not company approved. If we follow everything that the company has on our back office, on our websites, or on Steve Schultz's Facebook page, because I know that he's definitely in compliance, we can use all of those materials. And don't use anything else. Don't make, although as Joan said, you can just hold up a patch and say, is anyone not sleeping well? That's okay. You're not going against compliance doing that. Making sure that you're always covered by compliance, whether you're doing a home show, whether you're doing a trade show, making sure that your booth is all about compliance. You just have to get permission from the company for that. If you're not sure, refer to the compliance section in resources in your back office. And really, the best rule that you can follow is to keep everything duplicatable. I was terrible at breaking that rule when I was in Mary Kay. I had worked for a dermatologist, and I would talk about all the different issues about skin. I had terrible acne myself, and I would talk about how my acne was clearing up. And that's, you know, it was a personal thing, of course, but I would talk about how the dermatologists do this and this and this and what the product would do. I mean, nobody has to learn all that. And it's the same in Super Patch. We don't have to learn all that. We don't have to learn the science. Keep it duplicatable. If we start spouting off all things about science in our presentation, if I was sitting there as a guest in a presentation and they started talking about that, I'd be thinking, I don't want to learn all that. I'm no interest in joining the company. I don't want to learn all that. And you don't have to. I want to really stress that. I know Tommy is always saying that he's the Forrest Gump of this company because he he doesn't want to learn all that about the science. And I agree with him. It's nice to know in case somebody happens to ask you who has a bit more of a sciencey background. But you really do not have to learn all of that. When Jay wants us to learn those 8 marketing advantages, I think, whoa, that's pretty tough. But I can see why, because it sets us apart from other MLMs. And Carrie Dean is a wonderful teacher, my friend and my associate. And she made a statement to me a couple of days ago. She said, we have legs. And I thought about that and I thought, Carrie, you're so right. It means that we've got a solid understanding. I'm a minister, just for those of you who don't know. And in the Bible, when people talk about sandals, that one of the disciples had sandals or something, that means there's a solid understanding. You know, there's something supporting that person. And it's the same when Carrie said, we've got legs. So in this business, learn those 8 marketing opportunities or advantages rather, because that will give you legs and it will reinforce what Jay has asked. Jay is our CEO, by the way. It will reinforce what he's asking us to do to make sure that we fit in compliance all the time. I think because of time, I better call it a night. Okay, but thank you all for listening.